Hey guys, so this video has been long overdue for me to post. I wanted to come on here and give you guys my opinion on what my favorite go-to foundations are for my oily skin. I get requests on the daily asking me which foundation I recommend for a specific occasion, which foundations work best for me, what are my daily go-to foundations, what are my special occasion foundations, and I figured, you know what, let me wrap it up all into one video. I'm gonna make this as simple as I possibly can for you guys. If you are a makeup junkie like me, there is a good chance that you have maybe a couple of different foundations that you like for specific occasions. You know, my go-to party and wedding foundation isn't going to be the same as my daily wear foundation. I prefer different coverage levels and different overall finishes to my skin, just depending on the time of year, what I'm doing in that particular day, how long I need my foundation to look good for. So here it is. Here is my foundation guide, foundation roundup, my top foundations go-to for oily skin video for you. Honestly, I think that title is gonna be longer than the actual video. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and put them in order from least amount of coverage to most amount of coverage. That way, just depending on where in the scale you're looking for, you kind of have an idea. This first foundation has the least amount of coverage out of all the foundations we're gonna be talking about today, and it by far has the most natural finish on the skin. This is the Elcie Micro Silque foundation. I wear the shade Golden Tan. One thing that I originally loved about this foundation was how well that shade works for my skin. You know, in a higher coverage foundation, you need that shade to be absolutely spot on point. Otherwise, it's gonna look very obvious. Whereas for a light, medium coverage foundation, there's a little bit more flexibility in terms of finding the right color match. This works really well for me. I would say this foundation is light medium to medium buildable. You really can't get this foundation up to full coverage, at least not compared to some of the full coverage foundations I'm going to talk about later in this video. I love wearing this foundation on the daily when I know that I just want something to lightly even out my skin. I'm not looking for something too heavy. It's got a really natural finish, not super dewy, but also not matte. This is just like skin in a bottle, and it's unlike any other formula that I've tried before. So this Elcie Micro Silque foundation, it's special. It's really good. The next foundation, which is just a slight step up from the Elcie one, this is another one of my go-to daily foundations. This is the Physicians Formula, the Healthy Foundation. This foundation has the perfect medium coverage, natural finish. It's got a giant doe foot applicator on it. It doesn't come in a pump like a lot of the other ones do, but I actually don't mind it. It's easy to just rub on the areas that you need, blend it out with a beauty blender or a brush. A beauty blender is always my preferred method. All of these foundations work excellently with the beauty blender, so I use a beauty blender with this. It's got SPF 20 in it, so you've got a little bit of sunscreen. Supposedly it has a brightening complex. I just think this is a good foundation. It's one of those foundations that just feels so good on the skin. You know, there are some foundations that feel a little mask-like. Those tend to be the more fuller coverage ones. This one just feels nice. It just feels super lightweight, not heavy, not overly thick. It's good, and it's affordable, and it's at the drugstore, and I love it. The next foundation is gonna be no surprise. This is the Fenty Beauty Pro Filt'r Soft Matte Longwear Foundation. Love this stuff. I recently actually did a comparison video next to this original soft matte version, next to the hydrating version. I think these formulas are similar enough, yet just slightly different. The hydrating one just doesn't set to a powdery finish like the matte one does, but I do feel like the hydrating one also doesn't emphasize texture as much as the matte one does. So between the two of these, I mean, if you have both, mix them and trust me, you will love them. But if I had to repurchase one, I would still probably just go for the soft matte. This foundation wears really, really nicely on the skin. It does give you a soft matte finish. It's a true medium to medium full coverage. Definitely buildable. I usually apply about 2 layers of this foundation when I wear it, and I think it gives me really, really nice coverage, but still looks fairly natural. You know, it doesn't look, again, like a mask on your skin. This is a high-end foundation, but I feel like the price tag on it is really, really fair. Again, if you do tend to gravitate a little bit more dry, you might want to try the hydrating version. I think they're both really good. And like I said, I did a side-by-side comparison. If you want to see that video, I'll link it below. The next foundation is one that was a little controversial when it first came out, but I think it's good. I think it's good. I think the packaging is a little stupid, but this is the Beauty Blender Bounce Liquid Foundation. This is supposed to be a kind of whipped liquid foundation with a matte finish, and it's, like I said, it has this really stupid packaging on it where there's like a little switch here that turns on this pump, and then when you pump it out, you're supposed to hold the bottle in like a 45-degree angle so the pump squirts out product into this little palette here, and then you can just kind of bump the Beauty Blender right on this. It's honestly dumb. Just gotta say it. It's dumb. It makes a mess every time you use it. You gotta wipe it up because you can't just stick this back in your makeup collection all gunked up with foundation, and then the foundation dries, and then the next time you use it, then you've got crusty foundation bits. It's stupid. Putting the packaging aside, this is a really nice foundation. It's actually the one I have on my skin right now. For those of you guys wondering, I wear the shade 3.75. I'll also go ahead and list my shade names and numbers in the description box for all of these foundations in case I forget to mention it. The one thing I really like about this foundation that I think sets it apart from any of the other ones is that it gives me that perfect medium full coverage in one layer. This foundation basically gives me the coverage that the Fenty Beauty one gives me in 2 layers. So if I apply 2 layers of this, I basically get the same coverage as 1 layer of this. And I'm all about saving a couple extra minutes in the morning. So sometimes I will reach for this if I want the look of the Fenty and the longevity of the Fenty, but I don't want to put on 2 layers. And I want just good coverage. This is a good one. Okay, so now we're getting into more of the fuller coverage foundations. This one is one that has been in my collection for so long, and I always feel like I'm gonna have it in my collection. It's just one of those go-tos. This is the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation and concealer. This shade is tan. I actually also repurchased it in the shade Natural Tan, which is just marginally lighter. This foundation is incredible. It's at a drugstore price. I would consider this basically full coverage. If you are looking for a daily wear full coverage foundation, maybe you have some bad melasma or really bad hyperpigmentation, or you want to use this as a concealer, this is really good. It's a really, really good foundation. It lasts all day on my skin. And like I said, if I'm looking for full coverage that doesn't look to the outsider like full coverage, this is absolutely beautiful. And I know that Milani has a ton of shades of this foundation. When they originally came out, I think this was one of the darkest shades, but since then they have done a huge shade expansion, which I love. And that's when I picked up this marginally lighter shade just for the winter time. The next foundation is one that is slightly newer to my collection, but it very, very quickly made it into my go-to foundations. The Hourglass Vanish Seamless Finish Liquid Foundation. I'm about to give you guys an unpopular opinion, but I think this liquid foundation is better than the Hourglass Vanish Stick Foundation. I know, don't come after me, do not at me, this is better. This shade in Warm Honey matches me flawlessly. The undertone is perfect. The shade is perfect. I love that this gives me very, very full coverage in a very little amount of product. Every time I wear this foundation, I get compliments on my skin. Not on my foundation, but on my skin. People say my skin looks good. And if you can get a full coverage foundation and people tell you that your skin looks good, you know it's a good one. It's a good one. It's expensive. It's Hourglass. But honestly, you guys, I did do a review on this foundation as well. I'll link it down below if you want to watch it. Since I did that video, I have kept this in my constant rotation. It is so good. The final foundation I want to mention is a little bit more of an honorable mention. These other 6 foundations, maybe 7 if you want to count the 2 different Fenty ones as separate, but these other like 6 formulas I feel like are just my go-tos. But there is one foundation that I still have in my collection and I will always have in my collection for special occasions, and that is the Jouer Essential High Coverage Cream Foundation. I have talked about this foundation so much. You guys know that this foundation is my go-to wedding foundation, special event foundation, New Year's Eve, birthday parties, long nights out, anytime I need my face to look flawless. Your skin isn't gonna look natural. No one's gonna compliment you on, oh my God, your skin looks so flawless today. Everybody is gonna know that it was a foundation because it's almost too flawless looking. I mean, you literally look like you blurred the hell out of your face with Facetune when you wear this, but for special occasions, especially if you're taking lots of pictures, you will look like porcelain Barbie doll with this foundation. So while it's not a daily go-to for me, it is my go-to special occasion foundation. So I still wanted to give it an honorable mention. It is by far the most full coverage foundation I've ever used in my entire life. It honestly beats pretty much every concealer I even have in my collection. It's that insane of coverage. Alrighty guys, those are my 6, 7, maybe 8 foundations that are my go-to foundations for an oily skin type. One thing I do want to say is that I do tend to prime all of these foundations as well. So if you want me to do a video kind of rounding out my favorite face primers, let me know in the comments down below. I already did one on my favorite setting sprays and finishing sprays. I'll link that video for you guys if you want to see how I kind of set and finish the look after I use these foundations. But yeah, I just wanted to keep this strictly like a liquid foundation, go-to foundation video. Hopefully this is helpful for those of you guys who are still looking for your holy grail foundation. But other than that, thank you guys so much for your love and support on my channel. It means the absolute world to me. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down below so you don't miss an upload from me, and I will talk to you in my next video very soon. I'll see you then. Bye.